Welcome back to Southern Draw, your new go-to sports podcast. Welcome into episode 14. Please drop a like, subscribe, or if you're listening on Spotify, don't be afraid to rate us 5 stars right below the cover art. You can see it. It's a little star. I know you can click it. It takes 2 seconds. You should do it because I asked you to. Now I'm here joined with our co-hosts Rod and Nick. How are we doing, boys?
Doing good. That was probably the best intro yet. I'm wondering when you're going to drop the new podcast, and we're just going to be podcast, but I guess maybe we got to get into like the 20s of episodes to get rid of the new title.
No, we're always new. Someone's finding us.
We're always innovating. That's what makes it new.
I can't argue with that, I guess.
We got some good shit to talk about today. I'm not gonna lie. I'm pretty excited for this podcast. I think this is gonna be one of our better ones.
Yeah, we got a pretty good appetizer, a main dish. We'll have a pretty damn good dessert too.
We're cooking it up in the Southern Draw podcast kitchen. That was horrible. Sorry.
Exclude that. All right,
no,
Nick.
You got to leave it in.
No, it is.
Gotta be real.
We're going away from that.
I vote to get away from that direction. I'm doing good. I think we're all doing good. Let's just jump right in. Starting with college sports. That was just a hilarious start to this.
No octopus talk this time. So
the AP poll came out today. I have not really looked at it, so I'm gonna kind of be giving my live reactions as we go through. But I think the game plan is we're gonna go through the top 25 in 5-team increments and kind of give our general thoughts. So that being said, gonna run you 1 through 5. Obviously, no surprise. Georgia's at 1, Michigan at 2, the Ohio State University at 3, Alabama at 4, and LSU at 5. So what are our initial thoughts on this?
I'll go. The only thing I'd change, and I know this would get picked apart easily, but just I would have Michigan at 1 simply because of quarterback stability. Just because we don't know. I'm saying, but if Carson Beck is fine through the first 2 weeks, then I immediately put Georgia at 1. As long as that question gets answered, then I'm fine. But so technically Georgia is 1, but in my mind right now for preseason, I would have Michigan at 1.
I agree with that. And just because I feel like Michigan returns more than Georgia in terms of starters. Obviously, Georgia has a better roster overall, but I think Corum and then Donovan Edwards plus McCarthy back. I mean,
and their O-line is Joe Moore award-winning O-line as well, basically.
Yeah,
in the whole slate.
Yeah, so in terms of offense, which I think that's kind of where Georgia has their big question marks. I mean, obviously they lost a lot defensively as well with Jalen Carter leaving, but breaking in a new quarterback. As much as I like to hate on Stetson Bennett, he had a really good debut in the preseason against the Chargers. I think he is more valuable to Georgia than people really realize. So it's going to be interesting to see what Carson Beck does. But that's really, I agree, Matt. I'd have them flipped. And I would maybe have LSU outside of the top 5, maybe at 6 or 7. Yeah. I like LSU this year, but I think 5 is a little too high based on, they lost to Texas A&M last year.
This is what worries me.
Got blown out by Georgia.
With them, it's kind of one of those things where the media wants them to be back so bad that they're just making themselves rank them that high, where I feel like it can kind of hurt the team if they have that expectation too early. I feel like they should be at 7, kind of around there, and move up. Don't put them in that elite category yet. Let the body of work kind of start to play itself out first.
Yeah, I agree.
So I have different opinions than y'all on Michigan and Georgia's. I know you're saying that you think Georgia's the best team and you just want to see Carson Beck, but Georgia is undoubtedly the number 1 team in the country, back-to-back national champions. It doesn't really matter, in my opinion, what their offense looks like to start because they're going to figure it out. They're just so much better than everyone up front. They did lose Stetson Bennett, and I've been of the opinion as much as I hate Stetson Bennett, I do agree with you, Rod. He's definitely more valuable than people give him credit for. Michigan, yes, on paper, number 2 is deserved. Michigan's one of those teams where I can, and obviously it's a preseason ranking, so I don't want to dive too deep into it, but I can just never see it working out for Michigan. I can never see them winning a national championship. And I know that's, again, not the point of a preseason ranking, but that's just kind of my gut feeling.
I agree with that state. Like, basically, Michigan would be just like my placeholder one until I see Carson Beck, and I'm like, okay, yeah, that kid can ball. But I agree with Michigan. Their whole team is basically Harbaugh built Michigan to beat Ohio State, and that he obviously hasn't gotten over that next hump. So it's kind of like figuring that out. But that's basically I kind of agree with you. I have Michigan's a top 4 team in the country, undoubtedly, but I can't see them winning a national championship this year. But they are there though. They're just not that team.
Yeah. We haven't talked about Ohio State at all at 3.
I'd say the most talented roster in the country on paper, probably.
Agreed.
Got to make sure it works out.
Am I crazy for thinking Ohio State could be at 2 over Michigan?
No, I can see the argument.
You can make the argument. I think 3 is appropriate for them, and it's the same logic I use for Georgia. Lost C.J. Stroud. Bring in McCord. I think McCord is kind of expected to be the starter over Devin Brown. But again, I take a team, especially in the top 5 with a proven quarterback, over one that hasn't really played any meaningful snaps.
That's where I have it. That obviously talent most likely wins 95% of games. But Michigan's just one of those teams where they're that good of a team together where it puts them in that category kind of above Ohio State. And obviously they've beaten it twice in a row. So I think that's fine. But the argument can easily be made. I mean, the talent on that roster is ridiculous.
Yeah. Yeah. That wide receiver core does make it easy to play quarterback. You can kind of argue Ohio State always has a quarterback, so you shouldn't really question that.
Yeah, dude, and people keep forgetting about Travion Henderson's going to be back and fully healthy.
Yeah, I feel like he's never been healthy.
And I don't know if y'all knew this, but McCord was the high school quarterback for Marvin Harrison Jr. They played together in high school, so kind of already have the chemistry there.
I don't think it's too hard to have chemistry with Marvin Harrison, but you're right. That is a nice bonus. Talking about proven quarterback at Michigan, and I know it might be crazy to say considering they made the playoffs last year with him, but how proven is JJ McCarthy?
Yeah, I'm going to say we're saying proven. Probably we should say returning, because I actually think that JJ McCarthy sucks. So
I think it's just because all the other 3 teams we're looking at here don't have a quarterback coming back.
Yeah.
That's really why.
I mean, the only team in the top 5 with a known – I mean, McCarthy's a known good quarterback. I'm willing to go there. LSU is the only one who has a guy.
Yeah. I'd take Jaden Daniels over JJ McCarthy.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. But so we haven't touched on Alabama. I said I'd only change LSU. I'd probably have Alabama at 6 or 8, because I don't think they have near the talent that they've had in the past. Obviously, they brought in a number 1 recruiting class. What was it? Just this past December, but lots of freshmen. So only a couple of them really going to see major playing time. I don't know. The quarterback situation sounds like Jalen Milroe is going to be the starter, but he's prone to turning the ball over. Lots of fumbles, interceptions. He looked horrible against Texas A&M last year in his only start. So I think Alabama is getting a little too much credit for being Alabama.
The only thing is, though, it's who I get why, but almost it's one of those things where they should be lower, but who can you really put in front of them just because you know who the head coach is? Bringing that together. They aren't going to necessarily be the Alabama I think that we have always known. This will be more kind of putting a lot more puzzle pieces together for Saban this year. But I think it'll be a 3 QB. I think Milroe will be the starter, but by week 4, I wouldn't be surprised if someone else is starting just of things going on, especially after the Texas game. You'll get to know very fast.
Yeah. A couple things on Alabama. The first thing is I was texting my friends about it, but between Alabama and Auburn, you've got like 8 quarterbacks, and I don't think any of them are really good. Like, which is
Yeah.
kind of hilarious for the state of Alabama to have all that talent. And, there's really not, I mean, I'm sure maybe, one of the guys pops for Alabama or Auburn and you'll have a guy that's good. But right now on paper, it's like Jalen Milroe is the best quarterback on that entire list. I mean, I know we have Auburn bias for sure, but our quarterbacks are not that good either. So it's kind of just funny.
Yeah.
They're in the
Well,
same, they're both in the same situation. They have Buckner, we have Thorne. They're both kind of like the quarterback you can kind of rely on. Then you have the one really athletic guy that if you put him on the field, he can just make plays, and that's kind of Robbie and Milroe. But
and then you
Milroe,
have the second year guy who everybody's kind of expecting a lot out of, but are just not quite sure. Because that's how on paper, Ty Simpson was a 5-star for Alabama. I think people really crowned him as the heir after Bryce Young, and that hasn't materialized yet. So that's kind of something to watch. And then obviously Auburn has Colton Garner, who's not a 5-star, but yeah, similar quarterback rooms for sure.
Yeah, I agree. And the second thing about Alabama that kind of scares me a lot is an Alabama team without the hype and expectations of other Alabama teams is a very dangerous thing, I think. Kind of slightly disrespected if, Saban is the best coach in college football history. If, and Kirby Smart went to the Nick Saban school of gaslighting, imagine what Saban's going to be able to do to motivate his team, talking about, everyone's disrespecting them, saying they're not as good as they are. And, they're expected to have a kind of a down year for them, which is 3 losses max, right? So I think that Alabama at 4 is the right spot for them because, like you said, Matt, you look below, and this will kind of lead us into the next 5 teams. You look below, and there's not a team that I would take over them. 6 through 10, you've got USC, Penn State, Florida State, Clemson, and Washington.
Honestly, I see all of these, all 6 through 10 is like interchangeable. I think you could order this in whatever order you want, honestly.
Yeah, the only thing I wouldn't do is have USC at 6. Strictly because
honestly, I think USC is going to have a big year. I am high on them just returning a Heisman winner at quarterback, and with Lincoln Riley as your coach, you're gonna hit 10 wins at least.
I think they'll hit 10 wins, but I mean, last year they were number 1 in the turnover margin, and I went back through and I kind of went through like 15, 20 years, and I couldn't find a team that repeated that. And that was a huge key to their success, and their defensive depth is really bad. I just think the Pac-12 overall will be stronger this year, and some of those they didn't play both Washington and Oregon last year, I think. So you have both of those. It could be a dicey. I just think the Pac-12 is going to be like the Big 12 last year with no TCU, where everyone just basically eats itself alive.
Yeah, I see your point. It's kind of a lot of good teams, no great teams. Yeah,
but
USC,
yeah, Caleb Williams. So
USC is going to have to show that they learned to tackle over the offseason. I don't know if you remember the conference championship against Utah. Is that right?
Yes.
The one run, like 60-yard touchdown run, where Utah's running back broke like 8 tackles.
Yeah. I remember watching that game and being like, "This is a disgrace for college football tackling." Like, it was so bad. If they've learned to tackle and they can actually stop the run for once, then they'll be, deserving of being higher than 6. But for right now, I think 6 is a good spot. Again, with Caleb Williams, you know what you're getting. You've got a proven guy, won the Heisman. And, below that, it's very interchangeable. I think through 9, I think Washington is not in the same league as USC, Penn State, Florida State, and Clemson. But I guess that's my kind of thoughts on USC.
Yeah.
Could beat Clemson just because
I do too. I was going to say that. I think Washington's better than Clemson.
Penix is kind of a dog.
Yeah.
But I'm fine with how it plays out.
Yeah. Klubnik is unproven. I'm not high on Clemson. I would put Washington above Clemson, but I would have, I don't know, I'd probably have Clemson outside of the top 10, and I'd bring in our 11th team, who we'll talk about, into the top 10.
Well,
Go ahead.
We're gonna learn a lot about Clemson week 1 going to Durham because that's not an easy game. Certainly, I know we are all high on Duke, so we'll kind of see how Klubnik plays on the road. It's not like, Duke is a very hard place to play. I'm sure they'll be amped up. It's going to probably be one of the best environments that Duke's had in a long time. So that game will kind of be the litmus test for them. And it's kind of the same thing with Florida State. I know you're high on Florida State, Rod, but LSU week 1 is like just a huge kind of see what they actually are compared to what they are on paper and their preseason hype. So it's a lot of week 1 games that will kind of shift the rankings a lot and shift a lot of the public opinion on the teams.
Yeah.
And then Penn State at 7, like with another week 1, West Virginia, they're going to probably go in and absolutely destroy West Virginia. It's at home.
Yeah.
I think it's a night game too.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of hype for that game. I think West Virginia is in a really bad spot, so they're just kind of setting themselves. Penn State set up for a huge week. I think it would be really good for Penn State to kind of come out and prove themselves, and for Drew Allar to have a huge game against West Virginia, just to kind of, quell any doubts about whether or not he's the guy, because there's a lot of hype surrounding him. And I think that's a big reason for them being ranked as high as 7. I think people are expecting Drew Allar to be one of the better quarterbacks in the country. I do. I think he's a great quarterback. I followed him since high school. I think he is a very good quarterback. And Penn State, I would probably have them a little lower, but not much lower because of that run game and their defense. I think they're going to be really good this year. Probably will go 10-2 and lose to Ohio State and Michigan, but that's still really good.
Yeah. I mean, you're going to lose to 2 teams that'll probably make the playoff. So, I mean, you're just that tier right below.
Yeah.
Right.
There's, depending on how Drew Allar plays, I can easily see him having a monster game and just skyrocketing to Heisman hopefuls, I guess.
Yes.
Oh,
yeah. If he goes out and throws for 400 yards and 5 touchdowns against a horrible West Virginia team, because that's what West Virginia is now, it's going to get very, very, very quickly. The hype is going to be building in State College.
For sure. You hinted at it going through the next 5 teams. At 11, you've got Texas. So interesting to see that Texas did not get into the top 10.
Yeah.
They'll
be in the top 10 by week 2.
Yeah, for sure.
For no other reason than to have a top 10 matchup.
They'll drop Washington,
Alabama
to put
100%.
Yeah. Or they'll put the loser of Florida State, LSU out of the top 10.
Out. Yeah.
After Texas, you've got Tennessee at 12, Notre Dame at 13. And then 2 Pac-12 teams, Utah and Oregon at 14 and 15, respectively.
I think the placement, like I said, I think Texas should probably be number 10, swap them with Washington. I think Ewers is primed for a big year. They had a good year in the transfer portal. I think having Arch Manning sitting right behind him is going to motivate Quinn Ewers to have a very good season. I think he's a likely Heisman finalist. I know that's saying a lot, but I honestly, despite him being a drunk, I believe in Steve Sarkisian. I think he's a great offensive coach. Now, if, depends on their defense too, and we're going to see fairly quickly with Texas going into Alabama, like we just mentioned. But, if you get through those first 2 weeks 2-0, Texas is going to quickly climb into the top 5.
Oh, if Texas beats Bama, they'll be like 3.
Yeah.
No doubt about it at all. That'll happen for sure.
The thing about Texas and Quinn Ewers that really has me kind of optimistic about them is if you think about the first quarter of Texas Alabama last year, the Quinn Ewers that we saw fully healthy operating that offense was absurd. He was making effortless throws downfield and just dotting them up. And then he got hurt, obviously. And the rest of the year, he kind of wasn't the same. He sat out a little bit and came back, I think, a little quick because they just needed him. So the whole offseason to get healthy, shave the mullet, get ready to rock and roll. I really am high on Texas this year, which I know is like the big pitfall always of overhyping Texas.
I don't think – it's been the the constant of, oh, this is the year Texas is back. The thing that's different is Sark's in year 3, obviously has been repeated by everyone, but they've actually built depth to the roster. The problem for Texas was having a bunch of talented players. And as football seasons play out, people get hurt. They'll get hurt in key moments, need someone to come in. The problem was always depth. And now they kind of have that depth, lacking it on the defensive side, but on offense, it looks like it's there. The key is for them this year is just to make sure the run game stays almost similar to last year, because most of the games they were in last year, Bijan had over like 100 yards.
Yeah.
So they still got to make sure. Was it Cedric Baxter? He was the number 1 running back like a year ago, I believe, out of high school. Is there going to be their running back 1? So as long as they can keep that there, but the talent's there, I think this is the year where the Texas is back thing works. Not saying championship, but like being competitive and being able to go toe to toe with those elite teams like they showed against Bama last year in week 2.
Yeah, I agree.
I think so too. Nick, I agree. I think the injury for Quinn Ewers stretched out the whole season. He is recovered from that. No more mullet, clean shaven. He's in a lot better shape. I think they're as Quinn Ewers go, Texas goes. I think they're in for a big year. But so let's talk about the next UT, Tennessee. What do y'all think about 12? I think 12 is probably appropriate for them based on how they finished last year with Joe Milton. But again, I just think I've said this before. I think there's a lot of risk with Joe Milton. Like I've said, reminds me a lot of Jeremy Johnson. You guys know 6th in the Heisman odds for Auburn came into the season. Was probably one of the worst quarterbacks I've seen play college football. I'm not saying that's going to be Joe Milton, but there's a big difference between having the pressure as a starter and coming in as the backup and performing without pressure. So it's going to be interesting to see how Joe Milton performs with the pressure of being a starting quarterback, because he didn't play well 2 years ago when he was initially named the starter, and then Hendon Hooker took over from him. So it's the same with Texas. Tennessee goes how Hendon Hooker or Joe Milton goes, and there's a 5-star right behind him as well. So we'll see.
Yeah,
I have basically like I would have Tennessee actually at 15 out of these teams and shuffle Oregon to 12.
Yeah.
Or Oregon, Utah 12, 13, and then Notre Dame at 14, just because I'm waiting if I can see Joe Milton, because I know it's fun to watch videos of someone throwing a football 80 yards, but I'm not going off one football game to judge everything. But basically, like if he proves himself to me watching, I would bump them up to a fringe top 10 team easily. But right now I would have them at 15.
Yeah. The thing about Joe Milton that kind of eases my worries with him a little bit is he's a veteran. He's played a lot of football. He's at Michigan first, obviously, transferred to Tennessee. He's seen a lot of football. He sat behind Hooker last year and the Heupel offense is just, it's very innovative and it makes it pretty quarterback friendly. I mean, Hendon Hooker was pretty bad at Virginia Tech. Not great, and I mean, he wasn't like when Hendon Hooker transferred to Tennessee, people weren't like, oh shit, Hendon Hooker's at Tennessee, and like you said, didn't win the job over Milton to begin with. So he's played a lot of football, a lot of mistakes. He's prone to interceptions. And like you said, Matt, his arm is obviously insanely talented. But again, there's only so much that preseason throws and passing academies really tell you.
Yeah, the key to Tennessee's offense last year too was the intermediate passing game too. So you can throw it 80 yards, but I need to make sure you're accurate at 15.
Yeah, the thing that I like about Joe Milton in Tennessee's offense is how wide they split out their wide receivers, and he can make those throws to the boundary on the intermediate routes, and he can make any throw on the field.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm not gonna lie. I'm kind of hoping Joe Milton plays poorly just so we can see Nico Immanavele. I think he is like the next like Peyton Manning. I know that's saying a lot for Tennessee, but he's that type of like prospect in terms of like star rating and stuff like that. I just want to see him play. But I think Joe Milton can be a good quarterback. It's just like you said, Nick, he's got to prove it.
Yeah.
One thing I think that we saw from Hendon Hooker that really helped their success last year was how he took over the offense and led with that accountability. Like you felt like the huddle actually wrapped around him. So hopefully Joe can do the same with that, because I think that will also be insanely key for that team because they're going to be in a lot of football games this year. I think that maybe they shouldn't be in just because of their defense. They're going to have to outscore people. It's almost kind of like Lincoln Riley, Oklahoma days with Tennessee this year. But this was the stat that I was trying to find. So 1998 Tennessee was ranked 10 in the preseason coaches poll. 2023 Tennessee was ranked 10 in the preseason coaches poll. Both went 11-2 the previous year. Both teams played in the Orange Bowl the previous year. Both teams lost Heisman caliber quarterbacks to the draft. And the 1998 team obviously went on to win the first BCS championship. So could
happen.
repeat itself with Tennessee.
Yeah. Last thing on Tennessee before we move on, and kind of what you're talking about with Hendon Hooker leading the offense, is Hendon Hooker very slept on mobility. He moved the chains a ton with his legs last year. Very tough runner. Milton is not as mobile as Hooker, but he is physical enough to get you some yardage, especially in like third and short, some read options or some quarterback keepers or draws. I know Heupel loves to run a quarterback draw, so we'll see if he kind of has that same mobility, which will, I think, be the X factor for him. But let's give some of these other schools some love. You got Notre Dame at 13, Utah and Oregon at 14 and 15. Matt, I know you said you wanted to swap Utah and Oregon at 12 and 13.
Yeah, I just think they're both completely proven. We know what we're going to get with those teams. Bo's going to be contending for the Heisman. Utah is just one of those teams that just plays together so well. Whittingham is a magician of team chemistry. He's basically like the father of building a football team of complementary football.
Yeah. I'd probably have them up there too. I think these are probably the two best teams in the Pac-12. I think they're both more complete teams than USC, although I think USC is great. They probably have better coaching and better quarterback play, but the Utah and Oregon aren't far behind in those aspects. I probably have Oregon ahead of Utah just because I think, again, a lot of college football is contingent on quarterback play. I think Bo Nix is better than Cam Rising, but they're kind of interchangeable in my opinion.
The thing that keeps me having Utah above Oregon is just the physicality they show in the Pac-12 is unmatched. A lot of these teams can't stop their run. Their pass blocking is really good. Cam Rising, extreme veteran. Health is always an issue. I know he's gotten hurt the past two Rose Bowls, so kind of see how he holds up. I know when he got hurt in the last Rose Bowl, there was talk about him just like retiring from football and being done. So that's interesting to monitor. I'm high on Utah. I'm really high on Utah. Didn't Whittingham say that this is the most talented team he's ever had?
Yeah, which is
Utah.
Huge with who's the tight end?
Kincaid that just left.
Kincaid, yeah, Dalton Kincaid. You lose a guy like that. You lose Clark Phillips, who was a AP All-American last year. Yeah, I mean, or 2 years ago, I think. But yeah, they lost a lot of talent. So that kind of statement is big because Kyle Whittingham is a great football coach, and he's not just going to say stuff like that. So Utah, I mean, I think they're going to have a huge year. Very excited to see them play Florida again.
The huge thing for them that I think that is always kind of when they like 9-3 or 10-2, they don't have the talent to run that table. But the thing that always helps them, like you said, the physicality, is no one on the West Coast prepares for a team like Utah till the week they play Utah, or the week before if they have like a bye week. So it's always like almost a style. It's a style of play shock to those teams and defenses and the line of scrimmage when they do have to play them. So it always gives them that like upper hand of we're going to smack you in the mouth and you're going to have to deal with it, which is what they did to USC both times last year.
Yeah, I agree completely. Notre Dame, we haven't talked on at all. I don't even really know what to think about Notre Dame.
Hartman for Heisman, baby. Yes. Hartman, I'm coming, baby. This is the
I'm going to make a prediction now. I think that I think it's week 2. I think Notre Dame beats Ohio State week 2.
Yes, Rod.
In those ugly ass green uniforms, but I think they're bad. You got to wear gold.
I like the jersey. I don't like the full color.
Yeah. But yeah, I think Notre Dame they're not going to go undefeated, but I could see them going 11-1.
Schedule's insane.
Yeah, their schedule is so hard.
Notre Dame will help. Notre Dame will shape the college football playoff this year.
Yeah, because they're good enough to beat anyone. I think, especially with I really like Sam Hartman, which is why I like Notre Dame. I think they're good enough to beat most teams outside of like Georgia or like some of the other top 5 teams, but they're not good enough to go undefeated. Good enough to beat elite teams, but they are good enough to beat most teams, and they will. Matt, you're right. They're going to help shape who makes the playoff, who's on the kind of fringe of the playoff, because they're going to upset some teams.
And then their success, those other teams will be cheering for Notre Dame's success from that point on because they will need that for the resume boost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think if Sam Hartman's probably Notre Dame's most talented quarterback since God, I can't even think.
I don't care about the past.
Yeah.
Like Brady Quinn, probably. Like,
yeah.
Savior of Notre Dame.
Yeah.
Kind of wild.
Ironically, like the best quarterback they've had in a very long time.
Yeah. All right, well, let's move on through 16 through 20. We've got Kansas State at 16. Our boys in Fort Worth, TCU at 17, Oregon State, Wisconsin, and Oklahoma at 18, 19, and 20.
Got a lot of frauds in here.
Yeah. A lot of frauds in here.
Except for one. Actually, possibly 2. The power.
Kansas State's getting too much credit for what they did last year. Fluky win over TCU. That losing, I don't know. I think it was fluky to me. But they lost Deuce Vaughn, who's obviously their very best player, like by a mile. I just think they take a step back this year.
Will Howard is going to alleviate that pressure.
He is good.
They're going back to back. Big 12. It's not going to be an undefeated season. They're going to be the number 2 team going in, and they're going to do it again. And they're going to repeat. I just don't think there's enough. I think they're just as a team, it's kind of like Michigan. They're going to slot themselves by just playing well under Kleiman, and Oklahoma is in this group we're talking about, and everyone keeps wanting to slot. Oklahoma's almost kind of in that position right now where everyone kind of had Texas the last few years. Like they're purposely going to rank them higher because they are Oklahoma. Yeah. I don't think, and it all hinges on Dylan Gabriel's health. Without him, if he's not fully healthy the entire year, they're going to have problems again and lose game.
Yeah, I think if Dylan Gabriel is not healthy, I think I like Jackson Arnold, but again, he's a freshman or a redshirt freshman. But I see Oklahoma as like a 6-win team if Dylan Gabriel plays bad or is not healthy.
Yeah, I'm not high on Oklahoma at all. They really are sticking out to me in this poll. I mean, I guess they belong on the top 25 when you look at the teams that are outside the poll, but I'm not high on them. I don't think they're going to have a good year. I don't think Venables is ready to be a head coach. I think last year was really tough for them. Dylan Gabriel, he's been around college football a long time. He's good, but again, some health worries. And I just need to see the offense click for me to really be a believer of them.
I'd have him at 25 if I could do this.
Yeah. Same thing with like Wisconsin at 19, way too high. First year head coach. I know Luke Fickell is a great coach, and then they have Braylon Allen and some other good pieces. But what I don't understand the justification of putting them as high as 19. I can see like right outside the top 25, but I don't really get that.
Just Fickell.
Yeah, it's all Fickell.
All Fickell, yeah, for sure. And then Oregon State, I would honestly probably have them a little bit higher. I actually think DJ Uiagalelei is going to play very well in the Pac-12. I think they'll build on what they did last year. It's just kind of their program tanks after this year. So
yeah,
and they have the ultimate bulletin board material for this year.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm rooting for them. Hopefully they can Pac-12.
Yeah, the Pac-12 is going to be. I can't say it's going to be the most entertaining conference because of all the other conferences, but it's going to be very cutthroat, very entertaining every week. A lot of grudge matches.
Yeah, it's going to have the most parity of all the conferences, I think.
Yeah. TCU, what do we think of their playoff run last year?
Last year to capitalize, but you just have to.
I think they're still good. I think they're still a top 15 team. I think they did really well in the portal. I really like Sonny Dykes is a good coach. He's not just a one-hit wonder. And I think we got to remember that their starting quarterback is Chandler Morris, who was the starter over Max Duggan at the beginning of the year last year. So it's not like, I mean, obviously Duggan was great. He performed amazingly throughout last year, but he was a backup at the beginning of the year. Chandler Morris is a good quarterback. I think that TCU 9-win team, 8-win team, maybe, but not. I mean, they're a top 25 team. I think.
I think it's just gonna be they'll be good, but they're it's gonna be a playoff hangover kind of. I just think they lose too much offensively as a whole. I mean, Quentin Johnson was just unbelievable. Like that dude was insane to watch. And I think they're last in returning production in the Big 12 as a whole. So I think they'll be like 8-4. But I mean, I'd have them as a top 25 team, no doubt, going into the season. But 8-4 is good enough to be a top. That's like a 20, 21 area.
Yeah. Well, TCU is just kind of a show me this year team and kind of evaluate them as they go. I think week 1 they're going to destroy Colorado, which will be very cathartic for a lot of college football fans.
Can't wait.
All right, let's wrap up the last 5 teams. You've got North Carolina at 21, Ole Miss at 22, another SEC team, Texas A&M at 23, Tulane coming off best year in forever for them at 24, and then Iowa at 25.
I actually think this is like the appropriate last 5, probably. People are gonna, say, "Oh, why is Texas A&M ranked?" They hired Bobby Petrino. They have a roster full of 4 and 5 stars. Their quarterback's a former 5-star.
Probably the best receiver room in the SEC.
Yeah. Insane receiver room. What, like it or not, I know it's people have really enjoyed dunking on A&M, but A&M is going to have a good year. And by good year, I'm not saying they're going to win the SEC, but they're going to win 8 or 9 games probably.
They're slotted appropriately for the talent they have.
Yeah,
you got to see it
for
coming.
sure. They were just way overrated last year, and people took it out on them. This is appropriate. And then I think North Carolina is a little bit overrated. They lost Josh Palmer. Yeah, they obviously they get a lot of credit for having Drake May. Deservedly so. I think he's going to be a very good NFL quarterback. Has all the tools, but they lost Josh Palmer to the draft, and the guy who was supposed to be basically the top wide receiver got denied eligibility by the NCAA. Yeah. So North Carolina, I'd see a 6-6 season on the horizon for them. Unfortunately, I don't think they're going to be any good.
Their defense was so bad last year, and it's not going to be that much better.
Yeah,
their defense is not good.
Yeah, people are forgetting that game against App State where they should have lost. But yeah, and then Tulane, we love Tulane. Michael Pratt, awesome. And then what do y'all think about the rest of it?
I would just move if we had to keep them here. I would just bump Carolina to 25 and then slot each team down.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. You've kind of got Ole Miss and A&M in here just based off, I guess a lot of it is that recruiting class and getting older and seeing them on the field. Ole Miss is a little bit unproven with the skill position. They lost a lot of skill position players, but they also have like the deepest quarterback room in the SEC probably. And they've got probably the best running back in the SEC. I think it's right. I think what y'all said, switching North Carolina and sliding everyone up is probably appropriate. Iowa, I need to see it on offense before I believe it. Obviously, their defense is amazing per usual, but last year their offense was anemic to say the least.
Hey, he's got the clause in his contract now or whatever. They have to average 25 points per game or whatever, or he's fired.
Yeah.
Wait, what?
Yeah, the Ferentz's son, who's the OC or whatever, that's now in his contract.
Wow, that's crazy. That's actually insane. I didn't know that.
You got to
Yeah.
do something, man. I mean, literally, they've wasted championship caliber defenses.
Oh
Like,
yeah, big time.
I
So
love Iowa though, but Iowa's always that team every year where they're like 15th through 22, and they'll go 8-4 or 9-3. But it's like a team you would not want to play.
yeah, it's not a fun. You don't want to play Iowa. Your offense is gonna be stagnant, and it's just gonna be a shit show.
You don't have any snubs of the of
Yeah, I was gonna say to
Yeah.
end this, do y'all want to name one team that you think should be in the top 25 that got snubbed?
yeah.
All right, I have mine.
Go ahead.
As much as I hate them, Arkansas. I think Arkansas they should be in that 20 to 25 range, but I think Jefferson is a good quarterback. Is going to have a good year. Rocket Sanders, great running back. They have a great quarterback running back duo, good wide receivers, good defense. I think they're set up to be. No, I mean they're not going to win the SEC West, but they're going to be competitive.
Matt.
I got Air Force needs to be
Ooh.
back-to-back 10-win seasons. Take out the year where everything stopped. They had an 11-win season before. They returned the best offensive line production in the conference, a stout defense. If the quarterback meshes well, they're probably on the verge of another 10-win season.
I could see it.
I like that.
Roy Calhoun is that man. And what's his name's the running back coach? Tim Horton is the running
Yeah,
back.
Oh, yeah.
yeah,
I saw that the other day.
yeah. Mine's a little bit more chalky because they're at 27, but South Carolina ended the year amazing. I hate Beamer, but undeniably they were on the right track towards the end of last year. I think they should be in the top 25.
Yeah, Oklahoma well, I guess North Carolina place. That'll be a top 25 placement game. North Carolina, South Carolina.
I'm not happy about that pick, but it just logically to me they should be in the top 25.
Oh yeah.
Well, let's move on to another big story that's kind of been dominating the news cycle in sports, especially since it has just got released on Netflix last Monday.
Mm-hmm.
The Johnny Manziel documentary, what's like the Untold sports series, I think is the name of the series.
Yeah.
That came out, and my just reaction to it is very entertaining. Most college football fans knew most of the things that were going to be in the documentary, but it was cool to get his insight as well as some of the family takes on kind of the things that were going on, and kind of seeing how the fame of what Johnny Manziel achieved at such a young age went through his head, and kind of how that all played out. So what were y'all's reactions to the documentary?
It was just it was surface level. Like you said, it was basically everything. The only thing I didn't know was the autograph stuff, or that he used that he wasn't actually rich.
That actually blew my mind. I feel like everyone who's a college football fan always just thought it was fact that Johnny Manziel was an oil money kid and was already wealthy. Like that's the only moment in the documentary where I was like, wait, what the fuck? Like
that's why I was like, oh, his NFL career didn't pan out. Oh, whatever, he's loaded.
Yeah, and I mean the Manziel family is definitely wealthy, but generational wealth is kind of what it was made out to be. And it's the excuses for how he had all the money in the world and courtside tickets, etc. is just oh, it's his family money. When in reality, he's just getting paid like crazy.
Yeah.
Which is genius.
Yeah, that was genius. They came up with that. They're both 19. Him and his friend, Uncle
Nate.
Uncle Nate. Yeah. That guy, that guy boozes harder than anybody else in the world.
Yeah.
But yeah, it felt like that. I really liked the documentary, but it was more of a recap of what most college football fans know. I felt like it'd be a good documentary if you don't really watch sports, if you know what I mean. If you're kind of just a casual sports watcher, or you recently started watching sports, it'd be great. And it was great, but yeah, that moment about the oil money thing not being true, and then when his agent said that he watched 0.0 film hours with the Browns, it was pretty funny.
They said someone even said in college he didn't watch film. It's just you have the case of when you have an athlete like that, they just play.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
Well,
what
and like
bit him in the butt was being that talented, but when you get to the NFL, that hardly ever works unless you
Yeah.
truly are insanely generational.
as corny as it is, like this is like a very much like the story of hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard. I hate that saying, but it's so true with Johnny Manziel. Like,
No,
If you're an A&M fan, obviously Johnny Manziel's a legend, right? But you got to be kind of like, man, imagine if he really like grinded
oh
film
my
and like
God, yeah.
gave it his all.
He'd be
And
like the
then,
best quarterback in college football history.
yeah, because all of that just off pure talent, just saying, fuck it, we're going to go out there and play. Like, obviously, it contributed some of the things he was able to do because he was just like, I'm going to go out there and make plays. But if he could have like really gotten into it and like dialed it up. But then again, you had Cliff Kingsbury where it was like, I held Johnny in too much week one. I'm just going to let him go out and do whatever. So it's kind of,
Yeah.
there's kind of like the tipping scale of it. But
Yeah.
I mean, national championship for sure. If he is just like devoted to it and is able to rein in that kind of wild card playmaking ability combined with actually getting a grasp of an offense.
I was gonna say, imagine if he had studied film and Kingsbury had just let him do his thing as well, and they do make the national championship that year. The drama, or because that would have been against Notre Dame, who that was one of the last big Untold documentaries with all the shit he was going through that year.
Yeah,
So
that's
that
crazy.
would have been crazy. Yeah. But yeah, it's a shame that he couldn't get his shit together because I mean, as talented as he was, I don't know if he would have been a franchise quarterback, but he could have been a Ryan Tannehill-esque starter for a long time in the NFL. I mean, I know that's a lazy comparison because they both went to A&M, but in terms of like serviceable like NFL quarterbacks,
yeah, he
Yeah.
flipped for a decent amount of time.
The thing that like about it though is you kind of have to respect it is like Johnny Manziel, that's kind of just like what he wanted to do. That was his outlook on football was, I'm going to treat it like this. I'm going to have fun with it.
yeah,
And I'm going to play as far as I can get doing it the way I want to.
yeah, yeah. If he had just not been like a shithead, like a piece of shit, then it probably would have been. If he had just been a guy that liked to like party and then not like beat people up and like get in fights with cops and break the law, it probably would have been a little bit better. But yeah.
Yeah. We got to go to his bar that's opening up on Warren College Station.
Yes, he's opening a bar.
I can't remember the name of it. What's it called? It's like
Money Manziel's or something.
something cheesy like that.
Yeah.
But everyone's gonna want to go. I mean, I want to go.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Pay like a
Manziel's money bar.
Manziel's money
cover
bar.
to get in or something like that.
Yeah, probably. Well, yeah, it was a great documentary. Next one we have to look forward to Swamp Kings, the Florida documentary comes out soon.
That's gonna be insane.
Yeah, we'll definitely review that one
I
too.
hope it's longer though. The Untold ones haven't really like the Florida one needs to be like an hour longer.
It needs to
than
be like a
all-
series, dude.
The Manti Te'o one was 2 episodes, I'm pretty sure. So I'm sure the Florida one will be longer. There's so much more to cover with.
Yeah. They're doing it a disservice if they do it in like an hour and a half, just one episode.
You
Yeah.
just strapped a GoPro on Urban Meyer.
Yeah. Well, that leads us really well into our next topic, talking about movies and series. So I haven't really even dived deep into this
I
just
don't know
because
anything
it popped off when I was at work, but Michael Orr has some beef with the Tui family.
So that's the family that adopted him or whatever.
Yes.
Yeah.
I
Adopted him.
just saw like the main headline. I haven't gotten to read into any of this.
I've kind of basically skimmed it, so I'll give like a summary. Basically, like Michael Orr's alleging that the Tuies didn't actually adopt him. What they passed off as his adoption papers were him signing a conservatorship, and that's basically like we're in charge of you, but we're not your parents. So they never adopted him like the movie said and the books say. And then basically he says that like the Blind Side movie that Sandra Bullock was in, she won an Oscar for, he made no money from that. The family in the movie made $300 million, and the family has made royalties off of it. They have used it to do like speaking tours and motivational books and stuff like that. And he's also angry because he says the movie portrays him as being stupid and like basically slow, and that it hurt him as an NFL player because they assumed he was like that, like he was in the movie, and hurt him with like getting signed with different teams and stuff like that. So he's basically alleging that they took advantage of him and it, basically jacked his story from him.
So I guess like the conservatorship, I guess with the rights for the movie, if his conservatorship or whatever was under the family's name,
The family gets all the money and the press
yeah,
for it.
yeah, and then they choose how that money gets, or they can probably just keep it. I'm guessing what is happening.
Basically, there's some people are saying they put money in a trust for Michael Orr, but at this point, Michael Orr is like 30 years old at least. So I
Yeah.
don't know kind of what the deal is with that. Um, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's really weird situation, but it feels like the stuff we've heard stuff about like the Tuohys and Michael Orr and how it kind of wasn't exactly how it was portrayed for many years now. At least I have, because I that was one of my favorite movies. Like I have a Michael Orr signed helmet because I really like Michael Orr because I played offensive line when I played football. But that's the whole thing. That's just kind of how I know about this.
Yeah. The thing to me that really kind of rubs me the wrong way is if you're the Tuohys and like what you're doing is wrong, or maybe they were so in their own like narrative that what they were doing was right, but how do you go off and continue to profit from it? And like you're saying, going on like speaking tours and like talking about like all the good things you did, like how are you as a person able to do that knowing that you took advantage of someone? Or like I said, maybe it's they've just had their own narrative in their head where they thought nothing they did was wrong.
I guarantee,
Well,
it's the holier than thou attitude because they 100% used them. Like,
yeah, I do. I am going to play devil's advocate a little bit, as bad as that sounds. He's not alleging that they didn't like he didn't live with them and they didn't like get him away from a bad situation. He's basically just saying they didn't like adopt him and they haven't given him money from it. So they still took care of him when he was in high school and helped him get to Ole Miss and stuff like that. But it's just the stuff that kind of happened after that that he has a problem with.
Right. And it's like, so what you're saying about like taking him in and stuff is like obviously a great thing, get him out of the
Yeah.
situation he's in. That's like objectively a good thing. But the thing about another thing that rubs me the wrong way is the movie, like him not seeing any money from the movie when
Yeah,
like you're saying
that's really
portray him in a way that's not accurate. But
Yeah.
to tell the story, I mean, it's Hollywood, right? To tell the story, you have to exaggerate things. Every movie based on a true story is exaggerated in order to make it more enjoyable for the viewers, So they had to paint the narrative of him in a certain light to kind of make it seem like what the Tuohys were doing was so amazing, right?
Yeah.
So it's just a sticky situation. I'm interested to see
For sure.
like how the story develops and how it all pans out. I'm not like as big as into Michael Orr like you are, but I love the movie.
Yeah, it's a
And
great movie.
I've always been like, oh, like Michael Orr seemed like, a great guy. And like I came off the movie being like, he seems like a very likable character. And like I always would root for him every time I saw his name in the news and stuff like that. So I don't know. It's just very complicated and kind of shitty.
Yeah. I will say people need to kind of step back a little from the reactions online have been crazy to this. People have got to kind of step back and just let the facts of this come out before making a judgment on it, one way or the other. Because I think it's kind of obvious that the Tuohys took advantage of him. But Michael Orr isn't a saint. I mean, he's been arrested before for assaulting Uber driver and stuff like that, if I recall correctly. If that's not true, sorry. But that he's had some like legal troubles like that before, and he also has a book dropping like this week, his own account of the Blind Side. So I mean, we kind of just need to let it play out. It's a
not saying it is, but like one of those things where you get your name in the news because you have something coming out.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I think the best thing for everyone to do is just kind of sit on the sidelines and let everything kind of play out. And it's like with anything else, any story that drops, there's a ton of reactions to it, good, better, or worse, So maybe let them deal with it and see, what actually comes out of this. But
Just see what happens in the end and then make
yeah,
Kind of
regardless, I hope Michael Orr gets what he's owed. If it isn't in fact true that he's been just completely ripped out of, millions of dollars. Like you said, the movie made $300 million. It's kind of messed up, but
Give my man his money.
yeah, that's a good movie. I need to rewatch it, honestly.
It is good. Sandra Bullock. I will say one last comment. If he had listened to Tommy Tuberville, this would have never happened to him.
Yeah. True.
Yeah,
All right. Let's move on to the National Football League. Obviously, Tuesday night, big night. Matt, you're not a Hard Knocks guy, are you?
No.
No. So me and Rod, big Hard Knocks fans.
Viewership money.
Yeah, I know. Episode 1 came out Tuesday night. Obviously following the New York Jets. I really enjoyed the episode. It was a little bit much on the Aaron Rodgers.
No, it was
really.
It was a perfect amount of Aaron Rodgers. But what do you expect? I mean, that's why.
Yeah.
Hard Knocks.
My biggest takeaway from episode 1 is that, and I'm sure everyone's seen on Twitter, Sauce Gardner and Aaron Rodgers have the coolest handshake.
Yes.
Sports.
Yes.
And I thought it was a good episode. I really liked the parts during the Hall of Fame game where Aaron Rodgers was on the sideline. I thought that was cool. Kind of seeing how he was interacting with players, and obviously the clip that's made its way around of him telling Zach Wilson to throw the ball up on his 57-yard completion. Good episode. I'm excited for episode 2. Rod, what were your thoughts?
Really enjoyed it. Felt like I was in the episode. All the players love Aaron Rodgers as much as I do. They kind of I saw a lot of people talking down on the Jets, being like, this is why the Jets won't work, is because they don't see Aaron Rodgers as their teammate. They see him as some idol. I don't agree with that. I think it's the same situation as Brady when he went to the Bucks. I think the players are more inspired by someone like that coming to their team and saying, I want to play with those guys. But yeah, I thought it was good. It was a good, kind of made Aaron Rodgers look very human and kind of shows he's not quite the bad guy that a lot of people think he is. Probably my favorite moment didn't have anything to do with Aaron Rodgers. I thought it was the segment where it covered the matchups in camp between Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson. I really like two guys drafted in the same class. They don't have beef with each other. They're just making each other better. Like Sauce Gardner complimented Garrett Wilson on one of the routes that he ran. He's asking about different coverages from Sauce Gardner. That was really cool to me.
Yeah. Something a little different I noticed about the first episode, and it might be just because they said that the Jets aren't covering cuts, like they're not showing players getting cut. But traditionally in Hard Knocks, you meet a couple of the players who are fringe guys early on. Like last year at the Lions, Rodrigo was one of the main characters from the jump because he was kind of a fringe roster guy who ended up making it and having a pretty okay year for him, for a player of his background and hype. So I'm interested to see in episode 2 we get to meet some of the more players who are trying to make the roster, kind of fighting for their position.
Yeah, the bubble guys. I'm sure we'll get a couple, but honestly, I wouldn't be mad if it's all just about covering the different veterans. I kind of like that, just covering their stories and what the kind of expectations are going into the year. If it focuses on coaching staff and Saleh, thought Saleh is an interesting character too.
Yeah.
His philosophy.
Yeah, Saleh came off a lot more likable than I had previously thought of him. Because I just think of Saleh, I just think of meathead, douchebag kind of guy. But he came off pretty likable. Obviously Hackett is Hackett. The scenes where they're playing the game where they're trying to hit the pylon and they're talking shit about Sean Payton to him was really funny. But it's going to get a lot more interesting because news dropped today. Dalvin Cook has signed with the Jets on a 1-year deal.
Yeah, I expect so. About 2 weeks ago, when they were filming Hard Knocks, they filmed Dalvin Cook's visit to the Jets. So I would expect with this news happening today, that'll be on tomorrow's episode of Hard Knocks. But yeah, huge signing. That running back duo of Breece Hall and Dalvin Cook is like just nasty. Very, very huge signing. The Jets are almost doing what the Rams did when they traded for Matt Stafford, just accumulating stars on their team. I mean,
they have Michael Carter too as a third running back. Like it's a really good room. It's what we've said about the Jets has not changed from preseason or prior to the preseason starting, is a lot of new players, a lot of personalities. To see it actually gel on the field will be one thing. So it's kind of you can't just build a football team in an off season by throwing a bunch of talent in there. So we'll see how it goes.
Yeah. And I will say, I don't know, based on the chemistry off of the first episode, looks pretty good. I'd be optimistic if I was a Jets fan. Matt, I don't know if you have
Those
any
two
comments.
words don't go together, buddy.
Optimistic and Jets fan, the three words you mean?
It was a cute signing, throwing stuff together on paper, but when it comes down to it, X's and O's, we're taking the good teams over the Jets. I know you probably snuggled up to Hard Knocks with the Aaron Rodgers jersey and slippers on, watching the propaganda for Salah and Rodgers, but good signing though to hold off until Brees comes back and does well again. I like Breece Hall, so that's the one thing. And they have a Uzama. That's about the only bright spots who I'll cheer for on the Jets. But besides that, no, it's all propaganda. Cook, cute signing. He's been dwindling, as we know, with numbers, getting injured. So I don't know.
Are you getting a little nervous after the Jets pass rush?
Dude, no one's
destroyed Bryce Young, and
the only time
the
I'd
Dolphins O line is Swiss cheese getting
nervous
dominated by the Falcons.
Until they actually prove it. I will never be nervous playing a Jets team.
What week do the Jets and the Dolphins play first?
It's late. They play each other 2 times in 4 weeks. It's like week 9 and 13 or something.
I hate that.
We always play each other like very close together in the season, like our 2 matchups. We always play the Patriots early, and then it goes Bills, and then it goes Jets or Bills will swap for the later games. But the Jets games are always like really close.
Well, by that time, Miami will be 3-6, and no, I'm just kidding.
Let's jump into, because we're touching on preseason results. Let's jump into some week 1 of preseason thoughts.
Anything notable?
My big takeaway is, maybe it's because it's one of the games I watched for an extended period of time, Sean Clifford is going to be on an NFL roster. He looked really good. He had 2 picks. He had a pick 6, which was bad, but he had a deflection that was picked as well. But he looked like confident. He was making a bunch of good throws. He was running the offense really well. I know it's preseason, but I historically hate Sean Clifford. So for me to come out and say something nice about him, like, knows that that I mean that I was really impressed with what I saw.
Jordan Love didn't really impress me all that much in that game either. He played fine. So, but I think there's really legitimately a world where we could see Sean Clifford as the starting quarterback for the Green Bay Packers.
That would be
crazy.
We gotta give a shout out to DTR, one of my preseason or pre-draft sleepers, is a stud right now in the preseason. So Deshaun, watch out. Your job's in jeopardy in the future. DTR is coming to take over Cleveland.
DTR looks really good.
Yeah, very good. My kind of notable thing, I think Kyle Shanahan is trying to murder Trey Lance. The disparity between the pass and the run with Trey Lance, he had Trey Lance pass like 20 times and hand the ball off like 6. And he had Sam Darnold, it was like more 50-50. I think that Kyle Shanahan is trying to purposely like put Trey Lance in hell to play bad so that he can justify starting Brock Purdy over him, which he announced today that Purdy is the starter. There is no competition for QB1. It's just for QB2 between Darnold and Lance. So I don't know. Trey Lance, that's going to end up being like one of the worst trades ever because they took him at 3 and gave up so much for him.
Beautiful.
I've never been a Trey Lance guy, so
I'm starting, like, if I was one of these highly paid players on the 49ers, like Deebo Samuel, Christian McCaffrey, Nick Bosa, George Kittle, I would fucking hate Kyle Shanahan because that roster is so talented. He can't decide on a fucking quarterback so that they can win a Super Bowl. Like, realistically, the 49ers should have won like 2 or 3
Yeah.
Super Bowls in the last like 8 years.
They should easily have like nine or 10 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
Not in the last 10 years, but as a whole.
As a whole, yeah.
That
Kyle
whole-
Shanahan can't win a Super
get
Bowl.
that- they
I
can't get that quarterback playmaker to
Yeah.
get over the edge, which would utilize that talent in an insane way.
Yeah. I just think either Kyle Shanahan is like sabotaging them unintentionally, or he just is cursed and can't win a Super Bowl because, he ruined the Falcons' Super Bowl chances against the Patriots. Everybody knows that. Yeah, these poor 49ers. If I was a 49ers fan, you're just kind of stuck in limbo.
Yeah. Any other preseason thoughts? I know you touched on Stetson Bennett looked good, which he did, unfortunately.
Yeah. I guess kind of cool moment. Max Duggan played for the Chargers and they got to meet at midfield again, which
I'm sure Duggan loved that.
yeah, Duggan probably loved having to see that on social media, reminding him of how he got his ass whipped.
Yeah. All right. Last bit of NFL news came out today. Ezekiel Elliot has a new home in Foxborough, signing with the Patriots.
Goal line has a new home.
It's kind of an inconsequential move. I don't think it really makes a difference with the Patriots in terms of like competing for the AFC East. It's like complimentary football with Ramondre Stevenson because Ramondre Stevenson's not a very good short yardage back. So that's kind of what Zeke is now, as a short yardage back. So I guess it makes sense. They're kind of filling a weakness, but I mean, it doesn't impress me.
Yeah, it doesn't move the meter for me at all, honestly. Zeke's he's kind of a victim of his own success slightly because he got run into the ground, but he also just doesn't have that burst anymore. And he's just going to be a goal line back and kind of just float around the league for the next few years, I think, and then kind of fade away.
Well, Grandpa Bill still thinks it's 2008.
Yeah. Honestly.
Can't come out.
I don't know. Honestly, I think it's a dumb career move for Zeke. If I was Zeke, I'd be ring chasing right now.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the Patriots are not.
Or something. They're trying to Baltimore.
Yeah. Baltimore or go beat Christian McCaffrey's back up,
Seriously. All right. Well, now gonna touch on the most competitive sports league there is real quick. I know you guys don't really give a shit, but for all the listeners that do, the Premier League started back up. Y'all go check your phones while I rant. Premier League started up on Friday. I'll run through the match day one's results. Man City smashed Burnley. What are you playing, Matt? It's not picking up on your mic.
Crickets.
Oh, it's crazy. Man City played Burnley. Burnley's newly promoted, and they have a lot of American backing. I think JJ Watt is like a part owner, which is really interesting. Need more Americans in European soccer, of course. City won the treble last year and are the best team in the league by far. Arsenal beat Nottingham Forest 2-1. Their starting left back and big time signing Timber has a knee injury, might be ACL. We here at Southern Draw hate Arsenal. Isn't that right, Rod?
Yes.
Yes. So we are very happy that they are dealing with injuries. Fulham beat Everton 1-0. Everton's going to get relegated. They fucking suck. Brighton beat Luton Town 4-1. Y'all, if you're interested in something that's kind of a funny storyline, you should look up Luton Town Stadium. You have to like go through someone's like backyard to get into it because it's just like a small ass stadium, and they've had to renovate their stadium because when you get promoted, you have to meet certain regulations for like, I guess, like safety and attendance numbers. So they've had to like spend a lot of money to fix their stadium up because it's just a piece of shit, like literally walking through people's backyards. Crystal Palace beat Sheffield United. Didn't watch that game. Don't give a fuck. West Ham Bournemouth tied 1-1. Didn't watch that game. Don't really give a fuck.
Whoa.
That's correct.
Newcastle beat Aston Villa 5-1. Newcastle absolutely shit on them at home. It was glorious. You guys would like watching a Newcastle match because you'd like watching the intro because like their walkout and stadium music and atmosphere is really sick. Brighton, Tottenham, 2-2 draw. Fuck Tottenham. Everyone at Southern Draw hates Tottenham. And Chelsea Liverpool was the biggest match of the weekend. I'm obviously a Chelsea fan. Drew 1-1 at home. Should have beat them. But things are looking good. Just had the British record transfer fee for Moises Caicedo, who's a defensive midfield. Beat Liverpool out for signing him. Again, crazy money. It's like $140+ million for a player, which is stupid money. And then today, United beat Wolves 1-0. Should have been 1-1. There's a penalty. The keeper like tackled a dude. Y'all should watch that clip. He like beat the fuck out of the guy essentially, and they didn't give him a red card, no penalty. So that was hopefully that was less than 2 minutes. I have it on the rundown as 2-minute Premier League rundown. So sorry to bore y'all, but it's interesting to our listeners. There are singles of them who care. So
Dozens. There are dozens.
Yay.
Chelsea are going to win the league this year, by the way. All right, so trivia for y'all. I've got the question. Football related, NFL related, recent season related.
Okay.
Recent being last year. What players, these 3 players were the top 3 in drops for wide receivers last season?
Chase Claypool.
No.
That's tight end.
Chase Claypool's a receiver.
I'm an idiot.
Marquise Brown, Hollywood Brown.
Marquise Brown, no. I can give you teams if you don't start getting these guys.
That's too obvious.
Okay.
Darnell Mooney.
No.
Devontae Parker.
No.
Juju Smith-Schuster.
He did not get nearly enough targets to lead the NFL in drops.
Marquez Valdez-Scantling.
No. All right, I'm going to give you guys teams.
Drake London.
Jaguars, Browns, and Bengals.
No, it can't be him. There's no. Donovan Peoples-Jones? I would be disappointed.
Tyler Boyd?
No.
Amari Cooper?
Amari Cooper.
Jamar Chase.
11 drops. He's second place.
Jamar Chase.
Jamar Chase, yes, third place, 10 drops.
What was the other one? Jacksonville? Christian Kirk.
No.
Zay Jones.
Zay Jones.
Let's go.
12 drops.
I win again.
Yes. Just for shits and giggles, another Gabe Davis and Deebo Samuel both had 9.
Whoa.
Cortland Sutton and Romeo Dobbs also had 9. And then Tyreek Hill had 8. So he's washed.
Big time.
Gabe Davis is better than Tyreek Hill.
Gabe Davis can't catch.
No.
No one should draft Gabe Davis in fantasy football. I've made the mistake the last 2 years. He is never going to boom. He'll always bust. Except when he has a 100-yard touchdown.
Bills like to bust. Leave all the Bills players to me. No one else draft them. I'll take them. Matt, don't touch Josh Allen, please. I want to have him for once.
I wouldn't touch him this year because those interception numbers are just going to keep climbing.
Yeah, I'm sure they will. All right. Closing thoughts. Rod, Matt, who's up first?
The deuce is loose. Shout out Deuce Vaughn scoring first NFL touchdown in the preseason game. The next Barry Sanders is among us, people. Deuce Vaughn is here to stay.
He looked good. He's looking
Yeah.
good. He looks pretty it looks like it's going to translate to the next level. I mean, it's just so hard to tackle him. He's so small.
Pretty
You
short.
can't see him until he's outside of the line of scrimmage.
Let me think. What's my final thought? Same game. Tank Bigsby better than Travis Etienne. We'll see. He's having a great camp, had a great run against the Cowboys. We love Tank. This is Tank Bigsby podcast. We like Tank.
Did you see how big he was next to Travis? Like body mass size.
Yeah.
Super underappreciated guy in college.
Yes. My closing thought, Wander Franco, however you pronounce his last name, you might want to consider asking your company for their driver's licenses before you have any further communications with them. Try to get some verification.
I just want that hat.
That hat was so sick.
That was a cool hat, but I can't wear it. Apparently, it's not for people my age.
You have to be 14 and under to receive the Wander Franco hat.
And the Wander Franco.
Yes. Yes. It's good. It's good. Week in the AL East. Blue Jays can have a run now that the alleged not very good guy is
He's a bad
and
team.
and it's not because of his hydration that he's not a good guy. Look it up. I don't want to talk about it any further. So
also, second final thought, baseball related. The Braves beat the Mets 21-3 on Saturday. Just wanted to say that. That was pretty entertaining.
Yeah, I had to watch that game, and there was like 8 home runs or something within the span of like 3 innings.
yeah,
Field
Mets suck.
Fuck the Mets. Fuck New York.
Whoa, Rod. Whoa. What about the Jets?
That's a New Jersey
I'm so
team.
sorry, Aaron Rodgers. Please.
That's a New Jersey team. There's only one NFL team in New York.
I support New Jersey because of the Jets and Tony Soprano.
Rod's got a corner in his house that he's going to have to go repent in. It's the Aaron Rodgers corner for saying New York sucks.
I've got a cheese head and a throwback Jets jersey.
Not one of those candles, but it's got Aaron Rodgers on it.
Yes. Yep.
I think I'm just going to wear my Josh Allen jersey to Jets Cowboys week 2.
You have to.
I'm going to wear I told Nick I wanted to get like a throwback Tony Romo jersey and some jean shorts and like an old pair of Jordans because that's like the Cowboy fan uniform. I think that's what I'm going to wear when we go to the Jets Cowboy game.
Looking forward to that. All right, Matt, get us the hell out of here.
Thank y'all for tuning in. Thank y'all for listening. If you like this, please leave us a like or subscribe on YouTube. If you're watching on Spotify, like I said, there's a little star right there. Click it. Leave 5 stars. We'd enjoy that. We also got free content on our socials at Southern Draw Pod and written content at southerndraw.substack.com. Thank y'all for listening. Have a great week.